Hello, all you Hulk fans out there. It's Jerry Rasco, and we are back again today to talk about Tales to Astonish, the comic with the ongoing story of the Incredible Hulk in it. And this one is an interesting one. So we're going to be looking at Tales to Astonish number 74 today. And of course, I want to thank everybody who has been supporting the channel and most importantly, subscribing. So if you're new, if you've been a subscriber for a while, I apologize. You hear this spiel at the beginning of every video, but I want to make sure anybody who's new, who's getting this video in their feed from the algorithm, I want you to know how important it is for you to subscribe to the channel. Obviously, it's going to help us out. We're making a push to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. But in order to get that to happen, I am giving things away for free if you're a subscriber. So when we reach the 1,000 subscriber mark, we will be drawing subscribers at random to win original, one-of-a-kind, hand-drawn art by yours truly, featuring the characters on all of our review streams. So you could be the winner of The Incredible Hulk. You could be the winner of The Avengers. You could be the winner of Spider-Man. You could be the winner of the X-Men. Or you could be the winner of these two other pieces, which are series that have yet to debut but are on the way. We have Captain America and we have the Fantastic Four. So you could win one of these pieces of artwork for free, have it shipped to you for free just by clicking that subscribe button, which is also free. So go ahead, click that button, join us here on the channel, click notify, so that way you know when new videos are coming out, because we do have new videos every single week. And by the time I'm done with the two other series to launch, we'll have 6 videos a week. So that's a lot of content for you. So go ahead, subscribe, click the notify button, and check them out. In the meantime, we're going to jump over to the comic because I want to get to this one with you. Let's check it out. So we have Tales to Astonish number 74. And again, if you have been following along, you know that this is a book that features 2 stories. The front story features the Submariner, aka Namor from Atlantis, and then the back story is of the Hulk. And Submariner's been getting a little more cover recognition since coming onto the book. The Hulk has kind of been put as a sidebar here. Last issue did feature more of the Hulk on the cover. So here we've got just this little insert to remind us, hey, the Hulk is dealing with the Watcher. And so I'm not going to go through this cover too much. There's not much to talk about here because we're not dealing with the Submariner artist. We're really focusing on the Hulk story. So we're going to go ahead and scroll ahead until we get to the Hulk story. So I love to tell everybody at this point of every video that this is a scanned PDF copy. So we're looking at it together on my computer, sharing the screen. I love this format. This is something that Marvel did with a number of their titles. Obviously, all the ones we're reviewing here, plus I think there's a couple of other ones as well that you can get. So all of these are original books put onto flatbed scanners, scanned, and then turned into PDF files that you can view. We can zoom in, we can go back and forth very easy. There's no worry about an old book with rips and tears or covers with glossy shine or having to have a camera set up over my head to look down. This is just a great format for us to use for this particular purpose. And yeah, it is great. And it has it's exactly original. There's no changes to the page layouts, no computer recoloring. This is as close as you're going to get to how it looked when it came out at the end of 1965. So this comic is a 1965 special. This is the last issue of Tales to Astonish from 1965. And let's talk about the creative team. So we have Stan Lee continuing to write the story. So far, he's written pretty much every story of every review that we've done, but we know eventually we'll see some different writers. So it's interesting. It's an interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? Gosh, words are hard. Credit. Whew, there we go. It's an interesting credit that they give to Jack Kirby here. They mention that the Hulk is designed by Jack Kirby. But what I really think they're saying is the page layouts are designed. So in other words, instead of just saying layouts, they use designed, but I think that's what they're really talking about here, is that the overall flow, the number of panels, how the figures are portrayed and arranged on the panels, all that stuff. I think I'm calling this layouts by Jack Kirby. Pencils, so finished drawings by Bob Powell, who was new as of the last issue, and then inking again by Mike Esposito, going by Mickey DeMeo in the credits. I do want to point this out. My very good friend Nick Caputo, comic historian, friend of the channel, he pointed out to me in the last video that Mike Esposito went uncredited as the inker on that story. So it just was art by Bob Powell, but Mike Esposito was the inker there. And that does explain a lot, because there was a lot of things in there that we talked about in terms of the rendering style, ink lines, when to use shadow, when not to use shadow, things that I had, issues with, that really do fit with Mike Esposito's ink style. And we're going to see the same thing here. So thanks to Nick for letting us know, and I wanted to just make that correction for the last video so that you know as well. But we're going to jump into this, and this splash page to start with kind of sums things up. So real quick story recap. The Hulk has been saved by the leader. The Hulk was trapped. He is trapped in Hulk form for a number of reasons, but one was if he did transform back to Banner, he was going to die, and the leader cured him of that problem. But in return, he says, hey, I found this guy called the Watcher. He's got all this advanced alien technology. I want you to go get something for me. And the Hulk feels that he owes him, so he says, sure. And now we are in the blue area of the moon, which is where the Watcher lives. And Hulk is fighting this alien being because they both want the same thing. I think it's just called the Ultimate Machine is what it's called. And so these two super strong, super powerful beings are fighting over who gets to claim this device from the Watcher. So we're jumping right into the story. I really like the splash page here. Good foreground elements of some weird, pipes and things, but it just sort of sets the foreground. You got the figures in the middle ground, really well drawn. The anatomy is very nice. I really like the scaly texture on this alien character. It's consistent throughout the book and gives, again, nice texture to really help separate him from the Hulk, not just by color. So that's a nice touch there. The pose is nice. He's got one arm up around the Hulk's head. You can see that the Hulk's left arm kind of punching into that midsection and getting ready to come in with a big, maybe right cross. So it's very good. It almost looks like maybe it's a referenced image from maybe like pro wrestling or something like that. It's very, very good. The one critique that I have, and that goes through most of this issue, and I think again this is where maybe it's always hard to determine, unless you see the original art, how much is due to the inker, how much is due to the penciler. So the thing is, if a penciler draws, and so the concern that I have here is that there's not a lot of shadows. There's not a lot of cast and core shadows. There's a few here and there, but you see a little bit of hatching underneath the arm here. That should be really casting a heavier shadow. Same thing with the Hulk's fist. I'd like to see some shadow on the inside of this leg. I'd like to see some shadow, definitely some shadows underneath the Hulk's chest, underneath this alien's arm. We have some darker contour lines, which help identify where the light is coming from, which would be the opposite side. But there's just not much in shadows. And shadows are really what help us to form the fact that it is three-dimensional. It helps give shape and volume to forms that we're drawing, because it really does play that this is an object that's blocking light. When it's just wide open like that, sometimes it just kind of feels like a coloring book. And so for me, I want to see some more core shadows, cast shadows. I want to see some of that in there. as opposed to a lot of the rendering that we're going to see, which is just hatch lines, either one way, the other way, or cross hatching. So that's my number one complaint kind of throughout the whole issue. And let's see, we see it here. So when you get to page 2, this is one of the things I mentioned in my last video, is this what I call hairy rendering. It's these hatch lines which don't necessarily make a lot of sense. So when you should be using hatching lines, you have your open area that the light is hitting. That's your illuminated area. There's no shadows there. The opposite of that, where it's dark, should be a dark shadow. So underneath the arm and the Hulk's leg here, that is perfect. That is dark. Now what you've got is there's no transition from dark to light. It's solid black to solid illumination. Sometimes there's an in-between there, and that's where hatching and rendering can come to transition from all black to the hatching is essentially gray, right? It's spaced lines so that it's not black, it's not white, it's somewhere in the middle. That's gray, and that's that transition from solid black into the illuminated areas. So like maybe down in this part of the leg, I might put some hatching in there, stuff like that. Things like on the top of the leg of this alien where the light is hitting makes no sense. The top of a Hulk's shoulder where the light is hitting makes no sense. He's trying to use hatching to define the muscles, like that there's a curve and a cut underneath that muscle. So maybe here on the front of the shoulder, if the light is coming from top right down, that would make sense. This kind of shadow rendering on his chest makes no sense because there's no shadow there. You have to either shadow underneath, or again, if the light is coming and hitting the Hulk from behind, his head should cast a shadow here, and then you could render out of that. This forearm, again, if the light is hitting the back of his shoulder, this forearm is bent, the front of his hand is bent, this should all be shaded as well. Instead, we just get little hatch marks to delineate the muscles. But that's not what hatch marks are for. Hatching and rendering is for lighting, not necessarily for delineation. And so then it just looks hairy. It just looks fuzzy and hairy. So not a great way to do that. Again, the texture here is phenomenal, by the way. That is awesome. He went, bananas on rendering all these little scales on the on this alien creature, which are very good. And the same thing here. This is where I say all the time, shadow it or don't shadow it. So if the light is hitting the front of the watcher's face so strong that behind his cheekbones backwards is shaded, so light is hitting and it's that dramatic of a lighting effect, don't give me hatch marks. It's not a gray in between. If it's going to be shadowed, have it shadowed. And then here's the thing. Why is only the side of his jaw shaded, but the back of his giant head and ear aren't shaded? Right? If the light's hitting the front and it's illuminating the front of your face and the side is in shadow, then the back is in shadow. Right? It keeps going. If the light is coming from this side, the whole side of the face is shadowed, not just past the cheekbone area. So again, the shading just doesn't follow any light sources. It doesn't follow any rhyme or reason, and it's not really doing justice to what we want it to do. The Watcher decides he's seen enough of these guys very quickly destroying some of his home and his scientific equipment, so he teleports them to a place where they can fight and not worry about it. So good scene transition here. So I talk a lot about this in other videos. When you are cutting from one scene to another, it's very important that you do it. I've kind of identified what I call the 3 transitions that you should be using. Number 1, this is one, you're doing a page turn. So literally we're reading, the last thing we see is them being in the energy, the Watcher's energy as he begins to teleport them, and then we turn the page and boom, they're in a new place. Great scene transition. You can also use this if you wanted to, let's say we cut from the Hulk and the monster fighting to back on Earth and Betty Ross is to go from looking at one character to the other. So that's why that's so important. The other thing you can do is you can do a visual transition. So you could have a character in one panel. Let's say, it's a detective story. So you've got the detective and they're looking at some clues and they're scratching their chin and in the next panel, which is a different scene, you could have the villain that they're trying to catch also maybe looking at something and scratching their chin or something, so that the visual cues line up together. That's a nice way to transition from one scene to another. So that's another way. The third way is a thematic transition, where you could talk about if somebody was like, boy, we haven't seen the Hulk in a while. I wonder what he's up to. Boom. And now we have the Hulk going, hey, I'm here and I'm fighting and I'm doing this thing. Thematic transitions aren't as powerful as the visual transitions, just because comics are a very visual medium, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't draw the stories. They're called novels. We'd just write them out. But things where you have chapter breaks in novels, when you cut to commercial on TV, when you have a screen fade or wipe in a movie, those are transitions, and those are important that we do them right. And this is done right. The Hulk and this creature are fighting. There's something about this, and I don't know what it is. I don't think it's Jack Kirby. I don't know if it's Bob Powell. I don't know if it's Mike Esposito. But this art team that's been in the past 4 or 5 plus issues, they are determined. Yes, the Hulk has a big, heavy brow, right? Like a Neanderthal kind of eyebrow, right? Which is supposed to make him look more savage. I get it. But for some reason, they take that whenever they show him from the front. It's not, it's a little bit there in the profile. They take it and they droop it down so that his eyes are drooping all the time. So he either looks like his face is melting, he looks like he's about to cry. He's in the middle of a fight with this giant monster, and he's talking about how he revels in battle, and he, even though he's Bruce Banner's brain, he's thinking like the Hulk. He should be driven or maybe even like introspective. There's a ton of different expressions, and all he's got is this sad, melty face, and I don't understand why. This focus on this eye, not just eyebrows that come across, but droop down over his eyes. I don't get it. This is really cool, and something I don't know that we've talked a lot about before. We may not have had a lot of opportunities, and that is we have an object breaking the border, breaking the plane. This is a technique that can be very effective and very powerful, and should be used conscientiously and sparingly. But the idea here is, remember, the borders of a comic book panel like this are a frame into this world. We're looking into this image and through it. That's why the characters go behind the panels, behind the pages. It cuts them off. So when you have an object that you want to show is coming at the reader, you want that energy, that motion. A very easy thing to do is break the plane. Now, what you wouldn't want to do is just do it with his fist here, because there's no motion there, and the fist is further in the back because it's his near arm is this one that's throwing the rock. His far arm is over here. So I wouldn't break the plane down here with his fist, but here with the rock is a great example and a perfect timing to use it, and it's very subtle. It doesn't go into the other panel. It just breaks this plane to show you this thing is coming at you. It's early comic book version of 3D, if you will. So, and what I really like as well, the only thing I would change a little bit in that is it's going up. I'd like to maybe show him throwing, and I would move the figure around, maybe reposition so that he's throwing down, because that would then pull my eye down to the next panel. So remember, we read in a Z pattern, so we go left to right, and then back down to the left, right, back down to the left, and to the right. So yes, this is perfect in terms of moving towards that next panel, but instead of going back up, I would draw your eye down. So I would have the rock coming down and breaking the panel maybe down in the corner here. But that's great. And then the Hulk is smashing the rock, and the little bits are flying back at the creature, and we've got consistency of left to right motion. So overall, this is very good in terms of your overall general page composition and how you're moving the reader's eyes around. Things are heading in the right direction. That all works and makes sense. And now we've got some big panels all of a sudden, which is kind of cool. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why you don't have, if you're going to have, yes, I always say big panels for big action is great. I don't know why you wouldn't also want to have big panels here if you're going to do them here. And then just spoiler, we go move on and we're back to small panels. So I don't know why. It's a little odd that this is the choice of when we want to go with a 4-panel page, but so be it. Again, good poses, good action, staying consistent with the texture on the character, on the alien character. Again, just not a little bit of shadow in there. Could use some more. Maybe on the Hulk on his back. Where's the lighting coming from? We haven't really established that very well. But other than that, decent, flying tackle to knock him into the water. I like these fish in being added to, to kind of identify that, this isn't just some empty puddle of water. There's life here, and it's alien life, and that's fine. And then this is also a good call, nice touch. The alien character says that he's amphibious, so he can breathe underwater. So he's able to not only breathe, he can talk underwater, just like Atlanteans do in the comics. The Hulk, while he can hold his breath for nearly forever, he certainly can't talk underwater. And so his words are all thought balloons, whereas the other guy is speaking out loud through the water. And I like that. That's a little nice tip. And I'm also going to give a shout out to the coloring. We've seen this before in some of the early Spidey videos, reviews, where he was dealing with characters underwater, like I think the Lizard, for example. I always like using blues at this era, right? We don't have computer coloring in 1965, so using shades of blue, making the character slightly darker and all the background, the rest of it, shades of blue, is just a nice thing to help us remember we are underwater, and I think that's a nice touch. Characters are continuing to fight, and it's just, yes, the Hulk is strong, and the Hulk can hold his breath, but this guy is built for water, so he wraps him up and kind of jams him into this crevice, into some rocks where he's going to get stuck. And if he's stuck, he'll drown. But he's the Hulk, right? So we'll see. I don't know what is happening with this face. I get it. He's grimacing. But man, that is a weird face. It reminded me of either tribal masks or things of that nature from different cultures. That's what it looks like to me, because it's just this very abstract expression, I guess, in terms of what it is. I mean, he's scrunching up his eyes, but there's just the choices of where the darks are, where the shadows are, the face, the mouth is just flat. This is important to note. I've talked about it before. When you have characters that have open mouths, your head, yes. So when we are drawing heads on a piece of paper, it's 2-dimensional. So you start with that traditional egg shape, right? Or a circle or whatever. And it's round this way. Well, your head is also 3-dimensional, and it's round this way. So your teeth curve back in an arc. This is just flat. So what should happen is you have to decide, is his head slightly up, slightly down, and it should curve in one direction or the other. It's even, if nothing else, it's even if you're straight on, it's still going to curve back into space, and you have to show that. And you can do that by making the teeth slightly smaller as they go back and curving that line back. This is just flat across. So again, that's why it reminds me of, I guess, maybe like a mask, like a tribal mask, where it's a 3-dimensional, shape carved onto a flat surface. And so things are flattened out that way. Maybe that's why it pulled me in that direction. But anyway, crazy. That's a weird face. I like this. The alien crawling out of the water, the drips of water coming off him, the pose where he's using his hands to pull himself up out of the rocks is great. It shows it wasn't, certainly wasn't easy for him. That's a very nice pose. And now he's triumphant. And actually, so real quick, I wasn't planning on doing this, but this makes sense. So on one hand, the top teeth are great. You see, he's turned up. So we see that curve because his head is round. That makes sense. Now you have to do the same with the bottom teeth. The bottom teeth are going to curve in the same arc because your teeth lock together. So you can't have one be, let's go like this. One can't be round and one flat. Not gonna line up. So the bottom teeth should be rounded out a little bit. Overall, though, this panel I do not care for it. This is bad composition. The idea is good. He's like, yelling for the watcher, yelling at the sky. He's triumphant. The water dripping off him is fine. Here's where it's bad. There's all this negative space around him. So positive and negative space. Positive space is the space that's taken up by an object. So his body is positive space. We've drawn lines and we've filled out a form. He is taking up space in this world. Around him is nothing. It's sky, it's air, it's clouds. This is negative space, the space that he is not taking up. And there's too much of it. You either fill it in with dialogue or you fill it in with something important visually to the story, not necessarily just background, because we have plenty of background here. To have this much space, it doesn't work. So, and the way that this figure is cut so low on the page and not all taking up the whole panel in his victory makes him less strong. It's not as strong a pose. So what do? For me personally, I say this all the time, I bemoan these 6, 7, 9 panel grids. I don't like having every panel be the exact same size. I understand this particular page. You've got a big panel underneath of the Hulk breaking out and the water blowing up as he's, destroying the rocks, holding them, all that stuff. That's great. You need a big panel there. This panel needs to be bigger. We need to move the camera down even lower so we're looking up. Think of it, this pose, it's like the Rocky statue at the top of the stairs, right? At the, is it the library, right? In Philadelphia? I forget if it's a museum or a library. I've never been there. But you want to look up at this like he is triumphant, a giant statue of triumph. So I would move your camera lower, make him fill the page, give a little bit bigger panel, and now he is triumphant until, boom, the next step. Oh my gosh, what happened? The Hulk, broke the rocks that he was wedged into with such force that the water explodes up like a bomb, knocking this guy to the ground. And then the Hulk he's still underneath, so he comes up from under the rocks, lifts this guy up. Great. Now this is what I'm talking about. Just imagine this a lot bigger. A low angle, seeing the whole figure, holding those arms up in victory, strong. That's what I was talking about before. And the Hulk's doing it here, and then he flings this guy basically like into space. Just wings him off, which is great. But again, just as I've been saying through the whole thing, where's the shadows? So the Hulk is lifting this rock up, and there's a little bit of shadow under this arm, a little bit here. I want to see some more. Where's the light? If the light is from above, then as I lift this thing over my head, it's going to block all that. So I'm going to have some shadow on me. And then he throws him off. And now because he's lost, he disappears. He's transported back to where he came from. But there's these little rocks. So this is, this doesn't make sense to me. The Hulk, it reads as if the Hulk is throwing little rocks after him. What's happened is he's thrown this big piece of rock with the alien on it, and little pieces are falling off. So as they're falling off, they're not going to have the momentum of the big rock, and so they're going to fall off to the side and fall down while that's continuing to go. So having them have motion lines where they're still moving forward doesn't make sense. You can still have little bits and pieces falling off, but they should be starting to fall to the ground. Another bad Hulk face. I don't know what is going on with this face. Like, it's just not consistent. It's weird, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's not good. Now the Watcher shows up, and you have this panel with them talking. Again, there's weird hatch rendering that doesn't seem to follow anything. Hatching is always about shadow. Where's the light? Where's the shadow? I guess it's hitting like right here on his domey head, or maybe straight on the top. But then why is this front shadow, but also the back is under shadow? The shadow goes all the way up to the top of the curve. But then his cheeks, your cheeks kind of stick out, right? Between nose, cheeks, chin, lips, these are features that stick out, that catch light. The side of your cheek wouldn't be shadowed, but he's added shading lines. I don't understand. I don't understand the lighting. But this needs a background as well. There's just this maroon background. Really, other than this little bit of rock here, there is no real background helping us identify, are they still in the same place where the water and the rocks were and stuff? Why not have rubble and some water splashing around? It's very simple to draw. Even if it's covered by most of the dialogue, it still helps set us that, oh yeah, we're still in that same place. The Watcher came to the Hulk and then figured that out. The last panel isn't bad. I like the reaction. So the Hulk's like, hey, I came to get this thing. I beat that guy, and I got to get it so that I can get out from under the thumb of this guy called the Leader. And the Watcher's like, I know. Don't worry about it. You do what you got to do. Which, the reaction of the Hulk is good. I don't understand the hand. If, the Watcher's like, it could be more of a point, like a more solid, you're good, or a do what you need to do. But this sort of just bleh hand. I don't understand the bleh hand there. What that hand gesture means. It doesn't do anything. Again, good scene transition. We now teleport back to the Watcher's, I guess, laboratory or base of operations. So that's an actually very good scene change. And then the Leader mentally is reminding him, hey, get that thing I want. You can only take one thing away, and that's the one I want. You better get it for me because you owe me. And so Hulk's like, fine. So he takes this big yellow sphere, and I get it. It's supposed to be illuminated. It's supposed to be bright. It's supposed to be, I guess, maybe sparkly and stuff. But cross-hatching around it does not work. Again, I've talked about this the whole issue. Hatch lines are shadows. Perfect example. He's using hatch lines on the Leader's face on this next page to indicate a grayish shadow. It's not really dark. It's not really light. Well, if it's neither, then don't do anything. There's no need for a slightly gray shadow on the face. Shade it or don't. Either if this thing is that bright that it's casting a shadow on his face, it should be casting a shadow on the Hulk's face too. The back of his neck, stuff like that should be very dark. There's a little bit here under the hand. That part's good. The inside of the Leader's hand, it's turned away from the light. That should be shaded equally. It is not. Shade it or don't shade it. But this sort of gray rendering means nothing. And now you've got this. Are these supposed to be little like gray motes of dust in the air? But the thing's supposed to be bright and shiny. So this cross-hatching thing around the device makes no sense at all. I don't like it. It's distracting. The cross-hatching line work is not smooth. It's not consistent. You can see there's some lines are close together, other have big gaps around them. It's just bad rendering, personally. So I don't like it. Hulk is transported back to the leader, and he wants this device. And this hand, I get it. He's going, give this to me. Now look, I'm here like this. I'll kind of go try to go the same angle. Here's my hand, my face. I know I got a big head. It's not as big as the leader, but look at this comparison of the size of my hand to my head. Here, I'll even go big on me for a second. Let's do that. Here's my hand, my head. If I had a hand the size of the leaders, even if it's stretched out, I'm trying to get it in the right position, it's still pretty close. Your hand is pretty close to the size of at least your face. The leader's hand is like this big. So he's got an itty bitty baby hand. Hand, scale. I mean, it's simple. It's right there. You're drawing it. You can't tell me that it doesn't look too small. And it's not necessary. It's the hand there isn't even necessary. The Hulk's holding the device. He's like, give it to me. And then he snatches it away in the next. Oops, the hand's right there. Sorry. Hand's right there. It's not necessary. Take that hand out and it doesn't change anything. He snatches it away from the Hulk, in the next panel, and it's perfectly fine. So there we go. More hairy hatching on the Hulk that means nothing, does nothing. And then and again, more of this line work that is not great line work. What is this stuff? It's inconsistent. Sometimes the lines meet before they get to the end. It's supposed to be parallel lines in a circle. It's absolutely not. They're going in different directions. And then he's holding this thing. Again, it's supposed to be ridiculously bright. So bright that it illuminates a circle around him, but only casts a shadow in to the right. Shouldn't the shadow be straight behind him? It'd be like, right? I have a light coming at me right now. So there's a shadow behind me. I'm holding that. That's it. That's the thing. It's lit. It should be there. Why would it cast a shadow over to this side? That makes no sense. Also, if it's so bright, why isn't the Hulk casting a shadow as well? If he's outside the sphere of the light, then he should be much darker because he's in the dark. This is the source of illumination. Again, just lighting consistency. These are basic things that are very easy to do, and we're just really missing them. And again, here, crazy. What are all these hatch lines in his head? Are they supposed to be shadows? I get it. He puts this like dome over his head. That's fine. But explain to me what these lines are. Are they divots, blemishes? I mean, some of them are wrinkles, I guess. All of a sudden, he puts it on and his eyes get 20 years older in a second. I don't understand. But yeah, all the lines just don't do anything. And this thing's supposed to be shiny, bright, see-through, and yet it's covered in ink lines. Just leave it. Leave it as a golden sphere. It's fine. I do like this. This reaction is good. Here, we'll zoom in on this section because the reaction is great. He puts it on his head, and of course, what you find out is, he's like, I've got all the knowledge. All the knowledge of the universe is going into his brain, and as you can imagine, it is too much, even for a big brain like the leader. It is too much for a mortal being, and it quickly overwhelms him. So all of a sudden the realization of like, and then this bulging vein in his forehead, that's actually really nice. That's a great touch and fits with this. That's a very cool reaction. That part's good. Him struggling and then and essentially being brain dead, and then he falls to the floor and the Hulk's like, he's dead. The pacing is nice. This is where small panels, we haven't talked about pacing in a long time, but when you have small panels the same size with the figure kind of in the same relative position, that means that's pacing. So that means this is happening 1, 2, 3. It's boom, boom, boom. There's no moment in between those panels. Obviously, then you cut to the next panel where he suddenly starts to fall, and now he's on the ground. There's slight time that happens between those panels, obviously. Here, this is moment, moment, moment. And so that's nice pacing. Like I said, we just haven't talked about that in a long time. And there we go. And now the leader apparently is dead, which means, I guess, the Hulk is free. He no longer owes the leader for saving him. He's not going to die, but he may be stuck in the form of the Hulk. So that's where we leave off issue number 74 of Tales to Astonish. That all said, let's cut back to the desk and we'll wrap this one up. So there we go. Tales to Astonish number 74, specifically the tale of the Hulk. And we've sort of, I guess at this point, reached the end of this storyline featuring the leader and his interactions with the Hulk. There are a lot of things, as you could tell, that by the end of the story, I was very frustrated with artistically. And again, I don't know how to separate, without seeing the original art, how much of that is the penciler, how much of that is the inker, how much of it is the two of them together. If a penciler is not clear on something that should be solid black versus they just take their pencil and they sort of, if you try to do gray tones with a pencil, which that's how some people draw, how does an inker translate that into simply black or white? A lot of times you use hatching. Or the inker could make the choice and go, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to just hatch it. I'm going to use solid black. The inker has the final choice on how they want to ink it. So it's a little bit of both, right? If the penciler draws it and it's unclear, then the inker has to make choices. Maybe they make the right choice, maybe they make the wrong choice, etc., etc. So it's probably, like, again, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. There are some good things in here, though, that I liked. Like I said, they were excellent with the consistency on that texture of the alien. I thought it was really good. A lot of the fight scenes and the anatomy in the fight scenes was pretty good. The water scene was nice. The coloring was done well. There are some really good things there. Great scene transitions. That's something I have, commented on with my opinion, a really great and iconic Marvel artist of John Romita Sr. Oftentimes, I don't like the way he does scene transitions because he doesn't use those three types that I talked about. Here, they're used multiple times. So great job there in terms of planning out the page. That would be due to Jack Kirby, who laid it all out. So great job. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I think the fight scene's not bad. I think it's pretty good. I thought, again, it's more about I don't have a problem as much with the storytelling as I do just the execution, I think. If you took the same layout, the same story, and you had two different artists, one penciling, one inking, it could be so much better. And you don't have to change the layout, the angles, the composition of the page. I'm just talking about strict drawing skills. You put in somebody a little bit better on the pencils and inks, and this is a much better story. So that's my 2 cents. As always, I want to hear what you think. Please drop me comments. Let me know what you think about this. How did you feel reading this? Was this good art, bad art? Are you looking at it and going, I can't draw a stick figure, so to me, everything's great? Or are you like me? Are you a comic creator yourself? And you're like, man, looking at this makes my, sets my teeth on edge. Like, I'm just grinding them. Let me know what you think. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be registered for some free artwork. And then we'll see you right here, same time, same place, next week with more Incredible Hulk. Thanks.